Hello and welcome to another episode of Rustacean Station. I'm your host, Alan Wyma. Today I am with Dmitry Stepanov. Hopefully I said that correctly. We just practiced before the show. He is the creator of Fyrox, which is an up-and-coming video game engine. We're discussing before the show. I feel like every week there's a new video game engine in Rust. And so I saw this one, and it definitely has something unique to it. And so I want to bring him on to talk about Fyrox. And yeah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. My name is Dmitry, and I'm a creator of Fyrox game engine. And my background is pretty large experience. I was working on some game engines before the Fyrox, and I also worked in the game development industry in Larian Studios, which is making the Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin 2. That was two main projects that I was working on, and I was mainly working on the tools of those projects. So such kind of experience allowed me to create the editor for the engine, to know how to build the engine, to connect it with the editor. So yeah, and what else can I say?
Now, I heard actually in the video game industry that a lot of tools are actually written in Rust, but not the game engine. So, was this actually what you were doing? Were you actually using Rust to write these kind of tools?
Yeah, I'm writing everything in Rust just because I was curious if it will be possible. My main thought initially was like maybe I should create the editor in C sharp to link it with the engine. But then I realized that I can practice in creating some UI library and building the editor from scratch and linking it together. Yeah, it seems to work fine. So I regret nothing. I chose the right path. So creating everything in Rust seems to be the way to go.
Do you mind if we kind of step back a little bit to your past, right? So, what was actually your first programming language?
That probably was the Visual Basic from the school from the fifth grade. Yeah, like I was the Visual Basic. Then was the second was the Blitz Basic. I used the Blitz 3D, if you know that. Then I switched to C++. That was a hard experience after the Visual Basic and Basic languages. And I spent like 8 years in C++, maybe more. Then I started learning the C sharp. I also created a game with an engine on from scratch on my own game engine, and I released the game in Steam. So, and after that, I like got a job in Larian Studios. So, and that project helped me to get a job in game development industry. So, something like that.
No, when you're working in video game industry, you said you're working mostly in the tools part, right? Not the actual game engine part. Is that right?
Yeah, but when you work in one of tools such as the huge editor for a game, you must know the internals of the engine because you are like gluing the engine and the editor together, and you should know how it works because if you don't know how it works, it would create some troubles in development. So you must know how the engine works. So something like that.
Okay. I mean, I don't even know how do you even actually start to learn about game engines. To me, it's like a black box, but I know I had a guest on before, Herbert Wolverson. He kind of walked me through it saying, okay, start from the very basics, like get a pixel drawn on the screen and then slowly kind of build abstractions above that. And then you can get a game engine, right? But, how did you manage to actually get started learning all this kind of stuff? Was it really building an engine by yourself? Or was it somebody actually walk you through it because you're working in a video game company? Or how did you manage to actually start wrapping your head around all this kind of stuff?
Oh, that's interesting. So when I started programming at fifth grade in school, so that my teacher showed me how to create an animation, like frame animation, like draw a set of pictures and the playback. So create a movie, and then I started asking how to like interact with that movie. So I asked some questions. How can I like get an input from the keyboard, move stuff on the screen, and then I started creating a simple game when I have a starship and some asteroids, like classic asteroids game, and I created, but it was like some sort of, it was a bit awful, but but it worked. And then I realized that I want to create 3D games, and I started learning some engines that was using Basic because I knew Basic at that time, and that was Blitz 3D. I created some games in it, and then I switched to C++ just because I wanted to practice if I can build something like that Blitz 3D game engine and learn the basics of the graphics and physics and stuff because I was very limited in the Blitz 3D because it was based on DirectX 7, where at that time the DirectX 9 was available, and that was a hard path. So it like took me 4 years to just create a simple engine that allowed me to like load 3D models, work on some sort of terrain, and with some simple physics. So, and after that, I was starting a new game engine like almost per year. So that was funny because like stumbled upon some architectural issues in my previous projects and just decided to discard my previous work and started some new stuff. But after that, I decided to create like a finished project. So I made an engine and a game on it and released it. And then I said to myself, yeah, now I'm like game developer, true game developer. I have a shipped game in the store. So after that, I got to work in game development. And yeah, after some time, I discovered Rust and my journey started. So yeah.
That's interesting. So wait, when you discovered Rust, how did you actually discover it? Sorry, maybe I missed that, but I don't think you exactly said how it came across your plate. Was it the video game place showed you this, or you ran into it somewhere?
I don't know actually. I can't even remember how I discovered Rust. Probably I just read an article somewhere about it and just got interested because it promised like a lot. And I was curious if I can make an engine with it. And then I started porting my C engine that was written in C to the Rust so I could learn Rust and create something useful with it. And that was very hard. So the first like 3 months was I started and over again just because the Rust seemed to be hard for me. And then I said to myself, I can create something with it. And then, so I keep trying, and here where I got the editor. So it's just a matter of time. If you have enough time and will to create something, and you have a passion to create something, that will probably end up with some good product, I think.
Okay. But the promises that you saw, like, do you think that it kept all the promises, or was there some things you think were exaggerated, or was it everything you hoped for, or more or less?
Yeah, it kept all the promises. So the safety, like when I was working on the engine, on the C engine, there was tons of segmentation faults, memory issues, stuff like that. I thought I was doing everything okay, but when I started to rewrite the engine in Rust, it actually showed me that I was creating the engine wrong in many places. So I don't want to go too deep in details, but the main part that I learned was is the architecture of the engine and the game. So to give an example, if you made an engine or a game, you probably know that most likely you would end up with a lot of callbacks and stuff like that. So you have a mixture of entities that connects to each other and probably some like dead links could occur, like dead pointers. I mean, and that could cause crashes and something like that. So there was a lot of issues finding good approaches, and I think I found them that allow me to create everything without like spending too much time on architecture. And I think, yeah, Rust kept all the promises.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I Nobody likes to have big promises that don't get fulfilled, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So you're working at a video game company. Are you still working at the same video game company, or have you changed jobs since then?
I've changed job. Yeah, you know that the war is still going, and the Larian Studios decided to close the St. Petersburg office. But I left before that, and yeah, currently, actually, nobody knows probably, but some people know. But I'm working on game company right now, so even I have full time job, I have some time to create an engine. So basically, started working in a video game company after some break, just because why you work for money. So I tried to raise some money on Patreon, but that was obviously not enough. And since the beginning of the war, I just don't have access to those money from Patreon. So I'm working in a video game company right now. So it's local Russian company. So actually, I can say the name of the company. It's Playrix. So it could be. It is not local company actually. It is international company. It was local company, but it is now international. So
Called Lyrics, Lyrics.
Playrix. It's like mobile stuff, like mobile games.
All right. I think you started to touch on this subject, but like, when did you start to actually work on Fyrox?
3 years ago, maybe more. So at that time, I was working in the Larian Studios, and I started it just to see if Rust is a good replacement for C and C++. And after a year, probably, I had everything ported and everything working. And probably, yeah, I announced the engine in 2019, something like that, if I recall correctly.
Was it due to the pandemic that you got started? Because it's 2019. I think a lot of things got started because everybody's at home. That's what it seems like.
No, that was before pandemic. Pandemic started in year
Should be
later.
2019. I think it was end of 2019.
Yeah, it's at the end of 2019. Right.
So I believe it was discovered back in October, but really picked up in November in China, and then went everywhere by January, February, I think.
Yeah, and in the next year, we were sent to work from home, and then I decided to leave the company because the work from home was not for me at that time. And yeah, I started to like work on the engine not a bit more, but a lot more. And but I don't think that you can work full time on such project just because there's a lot of stuff that you need to think, and you can't write the code all time. So you need to think, and some just spend few hours to code. You can like think in your free time, and then create it in code in a few hours. So yeah, something like that. I don't think I can say more.
Okay, so is Fyrex actually the port of your previous Fit game engine, or it's a totally new engine compared to the other one you made before?
It started as a port of C engine, but the C engine was tiny. It's like it's less than like 21,000 lines of code, so it's pretty tiny. The Fyrox was ported in a year, and then like after that, it is in development for 2.5 years already. So it is like now more than 100,000 lines of code. So it is. I can call it a different project, even if it was started as a C as a port of a C project.
Okay. And why do you think it's actually important to port this game engine even over, right? There's so many game engines out there. You felt like it was just like really worth it, or was there something particular that you're looking at? Because I think there's something special about Fyrex or Fyrox. I would like to hear kind of more about the original idea and then talk about kind of has it changed since then.
I do everything for practice, so I don't focus on old stuff and try something new, something like that. So every my game engine's previous attempt was to practice, like gain some experience. That's all.
Okay, so why don't we talk a little bit more about what is Fyrox now, right? So if you were to give a quick pitch, and this pitch should kind of differentiate, Fyrox compared to some of the others out there, how would you describe Fyrox to somebody saying, I'm evaluating game engines, you know, what is Fyrox? How would you tell it to people besides saying video game engine? How would you kind of describe it?
I hope it won't be too, I don't know how to say it, loud words or something like that. But it's the world's first Rust game engine with an editor. So like that. I don't know if it will sell the engine to anybody, but something like that. I don't know. It's really hard to describe in a short sentence.
Well, I mean, I think every game engine, I mean, there must be a reason that Unity and what else? Unity, Godot, and Unreal, right? Those three people will choose one over the other, and for different reasons, right? I think some of them is because of limitations, some of them could be because personal preferences. Like you said, I think there's one thing that is really unique about your game engine compared to some of the others that I've seen that are like completely Rust based, which is that you actually provide some type of graphical editor, right?
Yeah, actually, a single person cannot create something like Unreal Engine or Unity. I can just try to recreate some of mainstream engines functionality and add something new, and hope that what was added is good and will attract people. So I have some interesting features in the engine. I probably cannot describe it like in here, but I can try. Like I have a feature that you can create a lot of parts, like prefabs, and then create a bigger game level using those prefabs. But how it differs from Unity prefabs, for example, is that you can create hierarchical prefabs. So you can like create a room, for example, and the room will contain like table prefab and like chair prefab, and the room itself will be a prefab, and the room will be used in some other level. So that creates some sort of a nested structure. And if you change a property on a chair prefab, it will reflect on the final map that uses those prefab via the chain of prefab. So you have a chair which is in the room prefab, and the room prefab is instantiated in the level prefab. So I worked on this feature for quite some time, and it was a bit hard to implement, but it works now, and probably it should speed up development and make some stuff, make life easier a bit, just because you can, I don't know, parallelize your work. Like some people could work on one prefab, some people on another prefab, and something like that. I don't know if it's like game changing moment. This feature is game changing moment, but I think it's pretty nice. After what else? The editor is now mimicking most of, like, not the most, but the basic functionality of other engines. So you can't actually create something without a basic functionality that is like the required functionality of mainstream engines. So you need to have an ability to build a level, to create some animations and stuff. And currently the engine and the editor allows you to like create a map, create some scripts, test game inside the editor, tweak parameters of the objects, and create animations and something like that. But it also missing a lot of stuff. But because, as I said previously, like a single person, even if there's a handful of other contributors, cannot build a competitor to mainstream engines. That's insane. They're on market on for more than 15 years. I don't know if, yeah, Unity started at 2006 probably. Unreal is from the previous century. So I can try to make a competitor to Godot, something like that, but I don't think it is possible now just because Godot has paid developers and there are like 3 or 4 guys working on the engine. So, and I can just try to attract attention to the engine and hope for the best.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, so it's mostly you working on this, but I guess you must also be accepting pull requests, right?
Yeah, indeed. There are a lot of contributors that did awesome job and use their work for on a daily basis because there was a lot of improvements. So I don't need to write the boilerplate code or something like that, and it was very good contributions.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I'm surprised I haven't heard of your game engine before. Like, I don't know, I feel like it just kind of popped up and I looked at it and it seems like it was already had like its own community. I was really quite surprised because this is the first time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, that just was because I don't spend too much time on promotion. I just create a thing, make a small announcement, and and then return to the work, and then do some other stuff. And I don't like yell here and there, so yeah, everybody see here's my engine and some stuff. So yeah, it could be surprising for many people that there is such engine.
Yeah, definitely. Because the community of Rust, the Rust community is both big and small. So it's like you hear a lot of things, but at the same time, like if you're not in that community, you may not hear about it because they are, like you said, you have to actually promote it, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big one too. Yeah, I mean, and this game engine is actually production ready, right? Because some game engines they're kind of just starting off, but you think this is actually production ready, is that correct?
Yeah, I think it is because you can create a game from beginning to the end, and like don't know if my 2 games that I built on the engine are proof to anything or not, but I think you have everything to build a game. Like you can even use the engine in 2 modes, like as a framework or as a true game engine with an editor. So if you like building something simple, you can use the engine without an editor. Like if you're working on some project that use procedural generation for the world, you can use the engine as a framework. And if you need to build something unique, not just generated some maps levels, you can use the editor and scripts and stuff. And right now I'm trying to create good scripting system, but scripting will be done in Rust. I don't know if you can call that scripting actually. So yeah, something like that.
Okay, I see. How many games are actually written in your game engine? Do you have any idea about who's actually using it and if they've actually published any games yet?
Don't know about published games yet, but there are some projects, and the community is creating games with the engine. And I probably, yeah, on the new website, Fyrox.rs, there is games section. You can see there are 2 not mine projects and the people working on them. And I know that there are some other projects, but people don't want to share the screenshots or some stuff from them. I asked in the Discord server to share some screenshots so I can put them on the website, but yeah, it seems that everyone is ignored my request.
Okay. You have a section on here called games where there's a couple of games listed over here. So these are games that you built or this is from the community?
If you mean the games that listed on the website, those are the first 2, the Stationary Betas and the Rusty Shooter is mine games that I was like creating to like not to check to test the functionality of the engine. That those are basically in the state of technical demos, and the other 2 projects, the rest cycles, and oh my god, I can't remember the name of the last one. But anyway, those are made by community. Yeah, people using the engine, but I think the engine is a bit not friendly for newcomers because I spent very little time explaining how to how to build a game with it. Like I have few tutorials in the book, but those are not explaining basic stuff of game development. average game development should know linear algebra, how the rendering works, at least basics and stuff. So it is like same in for experienced game developers, or at least experienced programmers. So I don't have a goal to like teach people how to program or basics of game development. So if you want to jump in game development using Fyrox, there is no like beginners guides or something like that. I think I will add them, but as I said, there is no such goal to like teach people.
So this game engine is basically made for, I guess you could say, advanced to expert, right? Rather than beginners.
Yeah, I hope that someday I will create a beginner's tutorials explaining tiny things that you should know. But yeah, it built that for advanced users, so not for like a lot of people that trying to use the engine, but it seemed to be hard for them because game development isn't easy as it could look like. So there are a lot of small things that you should know and have a like good mathematics knowledge of linear algebra, as I said. A lot of stuff you should know. Yeah, you can indeed use the engine and practice and learn such stuff, but you should keep in mind that you will probably read some other sources. Like if you don't know linear algebra, you should learn about it. If you don't know how the rendering works, you should learn about it somewhere else, something like that. Don't get me wrong, I would write something like that, like have several clones of mine and like 48 hours per day, something like that. But my time is limited and I want to focus on the engine and not write tutorials for beginners. So there are plenty of them already. And what differs from engine to engine is just like API calls and stuff, but overall approaches are the same in most engines. They are the same. So something like that.
Yeah, this is looking pretty exciting, right? And you also have quite a few YouTube videos. I haven't watched them yet, but I think they go into some more in depth about how to use the engine. Is that right?
Yeah, there are some videos that showing stuff, and there are some live streams where I programmed the engine. But some of the live streams ended like with understanding that it is not possible to create something on the live stream because it would take eternity to like to write I think the last one was about the animation blending state machine editor, but I decided to um, s- like quit streaming on that because um, the editor is very big and commenting everything on the live stream would take enormous amount of time. And yeah, i was I was thinking that it would take like a week or so, but it took a month of hard work. So so for other videos, yeah, there are like two kind of other videos, like the showcase videos where I like have edited video where I showcase some stuff from the engine, and some of them are just like live recordings. So like here's what I got, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I also like that you also have a book on here too. It looks like you're using the Rust doc that can kind of show people how to use the game engine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm happy that you have this over here because not everybody has documentation, right? But I think Rust kind of promotes that, and it's good to have
Yeah,
that.
Rust book. I think it's called MD book, and it is awesome because it also allows you to like test the code snippets, which is a super awesome feature. Because when you have an outdated source code in the book, it is awful. And if you have an ability to test that, if it compiles with the latest engine, and you basically run a set of tests, and it says you where to fix the code in the book and how easy to use the empty book is awesome. I just type the text and put some code snippets and some pictures in the Markdown format, and I have a first class site after that, and it's awesome.
And you also have patrons, right? Which is pretty cool. If you reach your goal, does this mean that you're going to stop working at the video game company and work solely on this project? Because you talk about you worry about your savings being depleted. Is that the kind of goal? Is that you can do this full time?
Yeah, but that will be in. It seems that will be in distant future because yeah, the war is not ending, and it seems that it will not end in the near future. But I hope it will. And yeah, the Russia is isolating more and more, and but I don't want to leave the Russia because I'm born here. I have everything here, and so actually the money isn't the problem because when I started working on that, I didn't even think that I will monetize it and raising some funds and something like that. I just did what I love, and I continue doing it. And so when I get money from people, that's just cool. But this isn't the main reason why I'm working on the engine. I'm working on it because I love doing that.
Okay, that's good. What's kind of is there any kind of upcoming feature that we should know about that's coming up soon that you're going to be releasing?
Oh, that's a hard question because I still don't have a roadmap of some sort, and that's very hard question. That really depends on my I don't know how to say that, on my mood or something like that. If I want to do a thing, I will do that. If I don't, I won't. So probably that will be the extended support for scripting, and I also wanted to like create a new animation system because right now there is no way to animate any property of any object, so you basically have an ability to animate like position, rotation, and scaling of some scene node, and that's it. So extended animation system would be nice, and it also will offload some work from code to the editor, so you can create animation that was previously done from code. And the extended script support is yeah, it's on my list too, just because I want to see if it's possible to write your game fully in Rust with the new approach that I created for the engine, like where you have your game as a library and it is statically linked to the editor, so the editor can run your game. And as I wrote in the blog about the latest version, this feature is still experimental, and I want to create a tutorial, a platformer tutorial, which I'm working on currently, to see if the current scripting system, if it can allow you to create games, if it have everything you need and something like that. So I think that the two main features I will be working on in the near future.
Okay, sounds good. Is there anything else you want people to know before we start to sign off?
No, I don't think so.
Well, it's great to have you on, and I'm happy that you're working on this, and I hope that things will be better for you in the coming future. We'll see what happens. We don't know what's tomorrow going to be like.
Yeah,
And in any case, thank you for your time, and looking forward to more from Fyrox. Right, this is looking exciting.
thank you.